Creative could be such a good tool for improvement, but with so many maps to pick from, you might find yourself unsure of what you want to do. In this video, I'll be covering all the most effective maps and how to use them to improve your aim, mechanics, and fighting as fast as possible. Starting off with mechanics, the best map you could use is Raiders Mechanics map. This map has so many things to choose from, and I'll go through how I think it should be played in order to improve as quick as possible. If you're trying to work on edit speed, the first thing I'll recommend is the edit tower. You have an infinite amount of floors to edit through and really focus on getting your timing as good as possible. You want to have the least amount of time between grabbing the edit and selecting the tile, then confirm. You could practice by doing single tile, double tile, or just editing down as fast as you can. Whichever way you choose, make sure you're always prioritizing technique over everything else. I mentioned it a couple of times throughout the video, but it's important to understand the main goal when practicing is to challenge yourself, practice properly, and make sure you eliminate any bad habits you may carry. Another way to increase your edit speed is to free build on a slower speed. I did this a lot when I first switched to edit on release off around a month ago, and it helped a lot. You want to place and edit a build in every space you walk through and focus on keeping tight and efficient crosshair movement. This gives you the opportunity to precisely hit edits you wouldn't necessarily be able to hit at a normal speed, and allows you to focus on the timing of the edits without running straight into builds because you're too fast. You could also do this in reverse where you build at a faster speed, but I find slow speed to help a lot more with precision and timing. To improve and be more consistent with your builds, you could stay in that same section and just free build at a normal speed. Here you don't want to be on autopilot doing moves that you could do in your sleep. You want to be doing moves you can't pull off consistently and keep going until you're comfortable with it. Like I said before, you want to challenge yourself in order to grow as a player. These are a couple moves I'm not super consistent with at the moment, but I'm working on every day. If you need inspiration on what moves to do, just watch a pro player free build and copy some of their moves. Polarized and Donnie are two people who I learn new moves from pretty often and always have new free builds every time I go to learn something else. Free building is the best way to work on mechanics because you aren't limited to anything but your own skill and creativity. Just make sure you actually pay attention when you're doing it. 10 minutes of focused free building could be better than an hour of autopilot free builds. For fighting, box fights and zone wars are good, but what translates into Aim.Best are Raiders realistic maps. You could choose between the classic realistic map or the realistic box fight map. Both are good and depends on what you want to work on more. I usually go for the classic map, but if I want to focus more on angles in a box fight style of fight, I'll obviously choose the realistic box fights. Creative is the best place to experiment with new moves and not have to worry about dying because you could jump right into the next round. Circling back to my point earlier about practicing to improve and challenging yourself, you want to do the same thing here and do things you know you can't but want to do. A big mistake people make when playing is worrying too much about score and playing in a way that they're comfortable with in order to win but not growing as a player. It can be frustrating messing up at times and dying, but it pays off once you're finally able to pull off that move you wanted to do consistently. For aiming, first map you have is Pandvils headshot map. For anyone who may be unfamiliar, you spawn in a Turtle War style box with 15 other players and a shotgun. In order to kill the other players, you need to hit them for close to max damage. If you get hit for max damage, you respawn and keep going until the 10-minute timer is up, and whoever has the most kills wins. You could choose between the pump, thunder, and auto shotgun, and to get the most efficient practice for in-game, I would recommend using the thunder shotgun. When playing the map, focus on keeping your crosshair head level and make smooth adjustments to hit your opponent. You don't want to go around flicking and hitting a lucky shot every so often because you're just reinforcing bad habits. These clips are a perfect example. I'm keeping my crosshair very controlled and never try to flick up to the head. This map is especially good because you get to incorporate building leading up to your shot. I don't know if it's only me, but after an edit course I always flick the shot and end up missing or hitting for really low damage because I'm rushing. And here I was able to break that habit by giving myself a little more time to take my shot and hit for a lot more damage. To get the most efficient practice, you really need to focus on technique and not fall back into bad aiming habits. One thing I will say is just because you could build does not mean that you need to. This is an aim map that has building and not the other way around. You don't need to go around edit coursing or hiding behind angles because that's not your main focus here. Last but not least, we have Raiders 1v1 aim trainer. Aim duels is one of the best ways to improve your aim. You have 40 different tracking, shotgun, and glider scenarios to choose from, and get practice against real player movement as opposed to another in-game aim trainer or Kovacs. You don't need to follow these tips, but what I found to be the most efficient way to practice was to aim duel on 10k health to avoid waiting for the map to reset after each round. I'll also play whatever scenario I pick at least 3 times. If you move on after just one round, you give yourself no time to make any adjustments to your aim after the previous round, and it could slow down improvement. You obviously want to play with guns that are in game to get used to the recoil that you'll have in actual fights. And just like headshot map, you want to remind yourself not to fall into any bad aiming habits and focus on proper technique, whether that's aiming for the neck while playing in SMG scenarios or keeping smooth controlled crosshair movement on shotgun scenarios. This is super important because if you're just mindlessly aiming, you're wasting your time. You also want to avoid easy scenarios like these that don't have any elevation and go with scenarios you really struggle with. You could lose every single round, but as long as you're challenging yourself and properly practicing, you'll see a lot more improvement. If you want to see how much I improved after playing 1000 aim duels, check out this video right here. Drop a like and subscribe if you enjoyed, and I'll catch you guys later.